Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Conversations with the Dreamers. I am your host, Petronella Mnenja, and as always, I am so excited to be the one who platforms these phenomenal stories of these men and women who are moving and shaking things in their personal life, in the community, in the world. Y'all, there are people who are doing phenomenal things out there, and on this platform, we celebrate the journey. We want to know how they became who they became. We want to know where it started, where it's going. And as always, we'll draw lessons and inspirations from these phenomenal stories that sometimes go untold. We platform all of them here. And today, y'all, my guest. I know I'm always excited about my guests, but this one in particular, y'all, he is my friend. I am proud to introduce the newly minted Dr. Anotida Chikumbu, the newly started professor at the University of Tennessee, and he hosts a very successful series called the Book Series, where he talks to academics on the books they've written. He is a published author with book chapters, with journal articles. He's a columnist. And today we're going to hear the story of how it began from Marondera to Amherst to Tennessee. How was this dreamer born? We want to know all the details. Dr. Anotida Chikumbu, welcome to Conversations with the Dreamers. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I've been following you for quite some time, and I'm very happy about the work that you have been doing. And I'm also happy to be here today. I'm usually in the position that you are, where I get to interview a lot of people, a lot of professors. But today I'm happy that I'm on the other side of the aisle.
Today you're not the host. And if you get too excited and you try to ask questions, I will remind you that today you are the interviewee. Today we want to know the story. So before I know that I tried introducing you, but I don't think I did justice. So before we even go anywhere, tell us, who is Anotida Chikumbu?
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity once again. I can say briefly, I'm Anotida Chikumbu, as you say. I'm Dr. Anotida Chikumbu. I just recently graduated with a PhD in history from the University of Massachusetts, Amherst. This is where I've been studying and teaching for the past 6 years. I am now an assistant professor of African history at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. It's a position that I just recently took. I just happened to teach my first class, so I'm pretty much excited with the journey. I previously studied and taught at the University of Zimbabwe as well, and I'm happy to say I studied with you for my master's program and as well for my undergraduate. So yeah, that's been the journey. And I also just recently I created it just around the time of the COVID-19 pandemic. I created the book series, which has managed to help a lot of students to access scholarly publications for free, by the way, and to access a lot of knowledge, a lot of lectures from different professors and lecturers living and working in different parts of the world. So I'm really happy to be here, and I look forward to an interesting conversation.
I am so excited that you're here today, and I think it's always amazing. I do know parts of your story, or I think I do, but sometimes when you see people do amazing things, you just assume that zvakangotanga zvakadaro, And I feel like sometimes when you see people who are like you, Zimbabweans who are doing things in their diaspora, I think it's important for us to sit down and have these conversations so that so many people watching us can look at you and be like, if Dr. Anotida Chikumbu did it, then I can do it as well. So thank you for the introduction. And that's and I know I'm not the only one who was excited and who now has many questions. So I know we are Dr. Anotida Chikumbu, the professor now, but let's take it back. Let's go back to where the story started. Where was Anotida born, and what was his childhood like? Did he always know that he wanted to be a doctor? What was that like?
Well, so honestly, I had no idea that I would end up in this position, or I would end up a doctor, a professor, especially at the very early stages of my life. So I was born in Harare. My parents were still working in Harare when I was born in 1995. I was born there, but I didn't get to spend so much time in the city because my father then got a new job in Marondera. which is the town that I was raised for all my life. And this is the town that my parents stay currently. So I think we moved to Marondera sometime in 2000. So I
Mm,
just stayed in Harare for my first 5 years, for the first 5 years of my life. I did, I think, my something we call kindergarten in this country. Back home, they call it creche. It's popularly known as creche, but I did it at a place called Auntie Barbara's. It closed off back then, but I still have memories of, some of the experiences I had then. I didn't like school, by the way. I
mm,
remember that, I consciously remember that I would be sent to the kindergarten, and then when I saw other kids and were being taught how to color, how to number, and how to, pronounce letters and stuff, I didn't like it. So I didn't enjoy it because I just wanted to be home with my mom eating porridge and stuff. So I remember that going there, I would then just sneak out sometime during break and during like some recessions and stuff. I would just sneak out of the school and go back home. It was easier for me to do that
mhm,
because it was very close to where I stayed. So it was just
mm,
like a walking distance, just like a minute. So I
mm,
knew very well how to go back home, how to go to school. So I would go back home and hide behind like the house and eat my lunch, like the food that my mom like prepared for me for school. So I didn't like. I do have a conscious memory that at my initial stages of life, I didn't like the concept of school, going to learn with others and all that. But yeah, parents are people who discipline us. They show us
mm,
direction.
mm,
So I
mm,
got a couple of beatings, and I got to learn and understand that I must go to these places and get some education. So that's when I then started grade one.
mm,
Um, I think at a school called Warren Park Primary School in Harare.
mm,
The houses in Warren Park were just at the very onset of their construction. Like it was an area that was just under construction. So my parents were staying there. I did my grade one, just maybe the first 2 terms of the year. And then my dad got a new job in Maronde. So we had to move to that town, and I think by 2001, that's when I then started my grade one at a new school in
mm,
Marondera. So this school was called Godfrey Hagens. That was the primary school that I have lots of memories because I spent so many years there. So I did my grade one all the way up to grade seven at that primary school. And some of the memories I still have of my experiences there. I still started out. I didn't have so much enthusiasm and excitement for school, especially this phase from from grade one up to grade three. I
mhm,
just didn't like it. It was quite hectic because I wanted to have fun with my friends, to play soccer, to watch
mm,
cartoons, but school was taking away that time. It was dragging me from all that fun to concentrate on the schoolwork that we're doing. So I didn't quite enjoy it.
mm,
My mom still has the reports. So whenever I go back home, I go and look at them. I was doing well. I could pass arithmetic, English and stuff, but I wasn't just like a super genius student. I was just like an average person, an average
mm,
student. But it was fun. And some of the memories now that I have, beginning maybe from grade three, grade four, we were screened. I'm sure that was the same probably with where you and others, studied. We were screened in terms of classes, to say some smarter kids were put in a class called the silver class. Others were put in a class called the gold class. Others were then put in a class that was called diamond.
mm,
So back then, the diamond class was known as the special class, but it
mm,
wasn't special in the sense that it's meant for super genius kids. It's meant for kids with disabilities, kids who, struggle with learning, kids who are not performing very well. So when we
mm,
got screened around that time, I remember that I was put on the list of students that were supposed to go to that special class. I
Mm,
just don't understand why, because when I look at my reports, I think I was doing well, but I think the reason was because I was outcompeted by other kids.
mm,
So the conclusion was that I should go to that special class. So inside me, I felt that it would have a serious psychological consequence on me. So I went and approached the teachers who were like teaching the grade three classes. There's a teacher who I knew, like who was like a family member. So I told her that I don't really want to go into this special class. I feel like it's my future will just be ruined by that, and I just don't want to go in there. Could you please accommodate me in your class? So she was teaching the very best class. So she was like, okay, I can take you in, but promise me that you will be serious with school and perform very well. So I was like, yeah, it's fine. So it went very well. I got into that class, but unfortunately, it was a class full of super genius people, trust me. Like the best of the best at that school were in that
mm,
class. So I think the first term, if you remember the education system, in the first term of the academic year, you
mm,
don't get your numbers. Like you don't get to know what number you are in a class. The results are not so taken serious for that first
mhm,
academic term. So the second academic term that became like a very traumatizing.
mhm,
So what then happened with the second term was we wrote examinations or for all the subjects that we're doing. Back then, we're just doing four subjects: English, mathematics, science, and a language. I think our language.
mhm.
So I was outcompeted, like seriously. So I I I became the last person in the class. Like I was number 45 out of 45. Like
Mm.
in our language, we say "Ndiyakavhara muswe," as in we say you are the
Yeah,
last.
Gafarado.
Yes, akavhara door. So it was quite a bad experience. I didn't like it. Even though I had good grades, I just felt like I wasn't good enough. I need to be serious with my life and all that. So, moving from that grade three to grade four, there was another screening again that took place. So I was removed from that best class and I was put in a second class, which was called the gold class. So I
Mm,
got in there. So the people in that class were like just my level, my level of intellect. So yeah, I started doing, very fine in that class. I would sit on some of the, prestigious groups. At some point, I was on group two. At some point, I would go back to group five. I'm sure you remember the group system in the
mm,
education, yeah, system in Zimbabwe.
mm,
So I would be motivated at one point. At some point, I would be demotivated. But at the end of the day, I think I had good parents. My mom was very uptight with school, so I remember her teaching me mathematics, the basic timetables, the divisions, the subtractions, so that I can catch up with the rest of the others. So from then, I did quite well. I finished my grade seven very well from that school, and then I
mm.
got a place at Marondera High School, which is one of the prestigious schools in the town. I did my Form 1 up to 4 there. It was quite an interesting experience as well. One thing that I may just want to mention about that 4 year experience was that the screening thing came back again.
Mm.
Um, we were told that, I think when we finished Form 2, we were told that we should be screened in terms of some kids are going to do sciences, others are going to do commercials, others will do arts like humanities and fine arts.
Mhm.
So yeah, I
Okay.
so around that time was like when the transition from Form 2 to Form 3. That's when we got screened, and again my name was read aloud that I should go into the class of humanities and fine arts. This was the last class again. It was called 4 yellow at Marondera High School. So basically the feeling around that time was that students who go into that class, they don't normally amount to anything in life because they do art subjects, humanities like history, English, Shona, commerce, like the subjects that don't normally lead you into a prestigious job like engineering, pharmacy, or medicine and stuff. So again, it was a demotivating thing because I felt like it was a judgmental kind of screening. I got into that class with the interest and enthusiasm that I want to work very hard, and if I prove myself, I'll be promoted to another class. Maybe if I try commercials or sciences, that's something more prestigious. At that point, I wanted to become a banker. I wanted to work in a bank. I was feeling like, yeah, if I do that, I can, maybe, live a more meaningful and prestigious life. Things back then, they don't quite make sense to you because everyone is just coming with judgments and all that. So I did it. I did my Form 3, but I was beginning now to do very well in school. I was reading very hard. I was an avid reader back then of history. I was good in history. I started winning prizes back like around that time. But my feeling is, I think the reason why I became exceptional was because I was now doing the things that I was good at. And I became more confident in the fact that I was screened to do humanities and finance because those are the things that I'm good at. Maybe if I had gone to do physics, chemistry, I wouldn't be a good and exceptional student. So I started doing very well. And at Marondra, I think I accumulated a total of 12 certificates of being best in every single subject that I was doing: English, commerce, geography, history. So I was now doing very well. I remember even when I was Form 4, I wrote my ordinary level earlier than I was supposed to. I wrote it in June. I was supposed
Wow.
to write it in
In
November
November.
together with my other stream, but I think I wrote half of the subjects in June and I managed to pass all of them. And then I wrote the rest of the other subjects in November with the rest of the other class. But around that time, I was now doing very well. I was getting prizes. On prize giving day, I would be the overall winner in my class. I was now beginning to be more confident about myself and who I wanted to become. But an incident happened at that school that resulted in me being expelled from the school. I was found with my classmates making noise, and some prefect reported us to the deputy head of that time. And when we went there, the deputy head insisted on beating us, like, beating us naked. He wanted us to take off our shorts. We used
You
to wear
were
some shorts.
joking.
Yes,
You were
yes, yes.
joking.
I won't say his name, but I'll just say the incident. But he
No.
wanted us to take us our shorts so that he can beat us naked. So one of my friends accepted, but then when it was my turn, I refused. I told him that it was not constitutional for him to ask people to take off their clothes because we have our right to privacy. Around that time, I think that's when we had the government of national unity. So, some earlier weeks before that beating, I had met people who were moving around with booklets of the new constitution that was being
Mm.
proposed. Yes, that was
Mm.
being proposed. So they gave me the booklet and they told us that there's something called fundamental freedoms and human rights. We have a right to privacy, we have a right to vote, a right to land. So that's how I started to learn about constitutional rights. So I used to walk with that booklet. And when I was in that office, when the deputy head wanted to beat me up, I told him that it doesn't align with the rules of the country. So you are not above the law. So when I told him that, it didn't quite, sit well with him. He didn't like how I rebuked him. So he wrote me a suspension letter for
Mm.
being disrespectful and for being silly. And when he gave me the suspension letter, I teared it in his office and I threw it in his bin. So he wanted to be confrontational with me as in to actually start a fight. But the fight didn't happen. I think I then walked out of the office because he was about to call the police. So this is
Mm.
the first time that I'm telling this story. I've never said the story
Yeah.
public. Of course, it's quite an embarrassing story, but I just
Mm.
wanted to stand up for my rights. So
Mm.
that's one of the reasons why I couldn't go back to that school after I finished ordinary level.
Mm.
When I passed my O level, I couldn't go back because of two reasons. I had a black record. I was put in something called a
The
black
black
book.
book.
Yes, we know a black book. Yes, so I
The
was put
black
in a
book.
black book. Yeah, so I couldn't go there for that reason. The other reason was financially, my parents were also not doing okay, so it was very hard for me to go there. It's quite an expensive school by the low income standards of our low income households.
Mm.
And again, I had a lot of arrears that I needed to pay. So for me to even be matriculated for advanced level, I needed to finish off that balance. So
Mm.
that resulted in me going to a school that I did not want at all. This is a school that is looked down upon in society, especially in Maronda. It's called Nyameni High School. So it doesn't have a good record.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
yeah, in almost all the aspects of life, academically, sporting wise. Yeah, nowadays it's rising up because we are
Mhm.
working very hard to promote it.
Mhm.
But back then it wasn't a prestigious school. It didn't even have a jura hall. So students would get in from all directions and go out from all directions. So, it wasn't really a good thing to go at that school. I remember a lot of people were judgmental of my decision and my parents' decision to go there. A lot of
Mm.
conclusions were made. There's a famous saying that goes like, ukaendesa mwana panyamena hapana chinobuda, which means
Mm.
that if you put your kid in that school, nothing comes out. So it was really hard to learn at that school and to go through the system with confidence because it was so judgmental. But I was
Mm.
fortunate to meet some good people there. Of course, I won't mention names because it's a lot of them. I don't want to leave out
Leave out
others.
some.
Yes, and include others. But I met a very good cohort of friendship, which was just serious with school. We were just like, no, it doesn't matter where we are. If we're going to
Mm.
write the same
Mm.
Zimsek as people at Marondera High, as people at St. Ignatius or any other school, we can just be serious and do very well.
Mm.
So it was a good journey, and I managed to pass. And from then, that's what got me into the University of Zimbabwe.
Hmm. Wow. Oh my goodness. I think that's such a fascinating story, and one thing about me is I'm always looking for lessons, in everything that I hear. And I think there is so much from your story to learn. And I think starting with the point where parents that are watching us, if you had this culture Zimbabwe, kuti vanoudza vana vavo kuti uri dofo iwewe, kuti uri dofo hapana kana chinombozikamo. And I'm thinking, if your parents had given up on you like those early years of primary school, we wouldn't be having you today. So I'm
Mm.
thinking that's such a good thing for parents watching us today as well, to realize, but you know what, when your kids are in primary school, that's just the start of the journey. You don't have to be difficult, you don't have to discourage them, you have to. And I think it's quite a powerful story of resilience, and even when you found Kuti, you've been put in the humanities class, I'm with you, I'm like you as well. And for me, my sister had actually done mixed biology and chemistry. So everyone was
Wow.
looking at me like, is she, like mentally punished? So I think, thank you for sharing the powerful story, Anatida. So let's talk about university. How was the university, how was the transition like from Nyomeni to the University of Zimbabwe? How was that journey like?
That's another interesting, journey as well, because the same issues that were traumatizing me in high school, in primary school, they came back again when I was in university. So, when we apply for degree programs, we all want to say, I'm doing engineering, I'm doing pharmaceutical, I'm doing medicine, I'm doing law and other stuff, at least stuff that is prestigious. So when it was time to
Considered
apply,
prestigious, yeah.
yes, yes. So when it was time for me to apply, I was strongly convinced that
Mm.
I should apply for a degree that can either get me into historical studies or political science. Those were the two areas that I was interested in. But it wasn't something I could explain to people in society because there is no direct job you can associate with being a historian, except being a high school teacher, or maybe becoming a lecturer. But we were not thinking about that at that point. We just think of what can you do with a history degree. Because to become a professor or lecturer, you need to get more other qualifications. So the thinking was there's not something that is direct that you can do, because if you do law, you're going to become a lawyer. If you study medicine, you're going to become a doctor. If you study engineering, you're going to become an engineer. So there was a lot of explaining to do if you take political science or history. But I was convinced that that's what I'm supposed to do. So when I did my applications, I did put economic history as my very first option, that I want to get into this economic history program. So I think I put economic history and philosophy. Those were my choices. But my other friends obviously applied for other different programs. Some of them had more points than I had. So they managed to get into political science. Others managed to get into law. It was a thing back then. So yeah, I applied, and then fortunately I got the place. Back then we were not told through the internet or something. We used to open up a newspaper and look at your name under a certain program. And we also used to receive letters, like actual letters that were mailed to our houses. So I received a letter that I had gotten a place, and I had gotten those exact subjects that I had applied for. So I was very happy, but it wasn't something I could explain to people from church or to close friends that I'm going to do a BA. It's called a Bachelor of Arts we study it as a general degree. It's not something that society valued so much. So I was even ashamed. Some people, I wouldn't even tell them what I'm going to start. I would just say I'm going to the University of Zimbabwe, so that they don't ask a lot about the programs I was doing. Fortunately, the friend I was, so close with back then, I won't mention names again because I have so many friends who I'm close to. So he got a place again, and he got into one of the prestigious programs. We were happy that we were going to the university. So I just concluded that I should go to the University of Zimbabwe. I also applied to Midland State University, and I got politics and public management. And I was conflicted that should I go there? Should I go to use that? But because a lot of my friends were going to the University of Zimbabwe, I just decided to go there. So I then went to the University of Zimbabwe. Again, financially, it was not good for my parents. It was not good for me. I'd worked as a teacher for some time, like temporary teaching. I did that for quite a while after I finished my Form 6. So I raised some money, but it was not enough. So my mom took a loan from a bank, and I was able to get into school for just the very first semester. And unfortunately, she lost her job just maybe, I think, when a semester into the university, my mom lost her job. So it was only my dad who was working. So she lost a job at a time that she was supposed to repay the loan that she had taken so that I go into the university. And I remember going to banks with her, confronting these bank managers that you can't penalize it because they were legal like consequences, as in someone who is on a loan, they can't be fired unless they've finished paying off that loan. But unfortunately, she had just lost a job from some corrupt activity that some bursar did at the school that she was working. She was working at a primary school. That I was when I was, grade one to 7. So that became my start in university. I was starting with a backdrop of financial difficulty, a backdrop of being judged that you're not doing the best programs. But I just got in and started to be serious with what I was doing. I just soldiered on, and I was fortunate to be selected for something they call an honors program.
Mm.
I was selected for an honors in philosophy, an honors in linguistics, and another honors in economic history. But I felt that since I have always wanted to become a historian, I think this is the best for me. We did
Mm.
interviews, and that's when I started interacting with you more significantly.
Mm.
So yeah, around that time, maybe you now have a clearer understanding of where I was coming from, meeting me in
Mm.
that, in that kind of context. That was my backdrop. I got into that honors program. It was quite a rigorous program. I greatly appreciate the people that were
Mhm.
running the program back then. They were doing very well. I won't mention names again. All of them were just fantastic people. They were doing very great. I did that economic history honors degree. I finished it around 2017. But after I finished, I wasn't sure of what I was going to do. I was
Mm.
applying for jobs, but I wasn't getting them. And I was getting also, advice that maybe you took a wrong program, switch and do something else. So I was
Mm.
conflicted, during that time. So I managed to get a job as a teacher at some private school in my town.
Mhm.
So, I had some assurance that I have something going on. I just taught only for one term. And then I got another job again at the Rural Electrification Agency,
Mm.
um, which was a division of ZESA of some sort. I was getting
Mhm.
good money then, so I was like, forget teaching, I won't teach at all. I got good money, but again, I felt like it was not my thing. That's when I think around that time, you might recall, me and you talking about, taking up a master's degree program. I
Mm.
wasn't, confident that it's a good route because I wanted it to work out with just the degree that I have.
Mm.
So yeah, I then decided to apply for the master's. I got it. And yeah, I did the master's. And at some point, thanks to you again, I won't mention the details. At some point, I got I got to be a graduate teaching assistant the last semester of my master's program. So I didn't have to pay for tuition and stuff. So it was a good experience. But it is around that time then that I became convinced that, I think I enjoy what I'm doing. I enjoy teaching. I've always loved it with my experience teaching in high schools. So maybe let me take this up and explore what being a university professor might be like. So I started doing research into PhD programs in the United States and the UK. Back then, I didn't think that I would come to the United States. I was very much of a London person. I grew up admiring London. I was like, London is the way. So I applied to about 17 schools in London, in the United Kingdom alone.
Anotida,
Um,
wait. Come back, come back. I think it's I don't want we don't want you to gloss over certain details. We want to unpack because I feel like it's quite interesting for me as well. Despite having been your friend for all of these years, there's some things that I didn't know about you that I'm hearing about and I'm thinking, oh my God, that is so amazing. That's so much resilience. And I think it's quite helpful that you're sharing it because when someone looks at you right now on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, you are doing phenomenal things. And there is this tendency to just assume kuti zvakangomuka zvakanaka. So when
yes,
when we hear you talk about the struggles, the financial difficulties, there's probably someone at use it who is about to give up as well and thinking, oh my goodness. So how did you navigate that? How did you create space to work hard while also dealing with whatever financial difficulties that you're going through and challenges? Because sometimes how when things happen to us, vanhu vakawanda hatina the resilience. It's
yes,
sometimes we let it define us, we let that become who we are, and we don't work hard and we don't dream. You just resign to your fate. So what made because I'm thinking someone watching you right now, they might think it was just some financial difficulties. It wasn't a big deal. He just survived through it. So how was that like for you? How did you navigate that and still work hard and still build and fight for the dreams that you had?
Oh yes, I should mention that even when I got a place to get to do a master's at the
Mhm.
University of Zimbabwe, I had to pay into the first and second semester money that I didn't have. So back
Mm,
then I was working, I'd moved from the rural electrification agents to a teaching job again, back to the school that I was.
mm.
So I think back then I was getting something like 200 American. I can say it. I can confidently say it now. I was getting 200 American, and it wasn't enough to, for anything. So that's the money that I had to save for applications, for PhD applications. That the money I needed to use for transport, the money I needed for, anything that I needed for the program, and even to support my family back home, because I still needed to play a significant role in my family and to support them. But I was fortunate that I got, a lot of support from people. The lecturers at the university also helped me financially to get into the program, because remember, when you get a master's, you have to
Mhm.
finish off every single balance that you owe the university from a previous program, so
Mm,
that you can be
mm.
admitted. Yes. So I couldn't finish the money, with the salary I was getting at that school. So I was helped by some professors, and some other friends also chipped in, and some other people from home, they also helped me to get in. And again, one thing, I would just want to say out loud to maybe younger people, younger than me, who are going through the same journey. I think, it's easy to succumb to pressure, because when you're at that age, you want to buy yourself stuff, you want to have a nice phone, you want to have nice clothes,
Mhm.
you want to look good and stuff. But if you just accept what you have is what you have at that time, and live a less costly life and be content with what you have, I think it's one of the things that helped me, because the pressure was there.
Mhm.
Sometimes you'd want to meet a girl, and then, you don't have a good phone. Sometimes you want to just do, some of the things that
Mhm.
young people our age want to do, enjoy
Mhm.
going out, having fun. You can't afford a meal at a restaurant, getting such a poor salary.
Mhm.
But what helped me was that I just lived, a less costly life. I would just deal with the money that I had that time. I would
Mhm.
wear the clothes that I afforded. I think I was one of the guys who I would buy a lot of clothes from they call it bells in English, but mabero in Shona, the cheap
Mhm.
stuff. I
Mhm.
would go and buy a lot of stuff from there, which was affordable, but no one could tell in the university. Even you couldn't tell that.
No, I didn't.
I had
Mm.
clothes from the barrel, but it was affordable, it was manageable. I managed to sail through the system. All I wanted was to just finish up and apply for programs abroad, because I was beginning to see that a lot of people from the program that we were getting scholarships abroad. They managed to come to the US, go to the UK, go to South Africa. So at that point, I wanted to go either to South Africa or to the United Kingdom.
Mm.
And I started to use that salary to
Go
save
and
and
apply
apply
for
for
them.
jobs. I remember that one of the things that helped me survive at the University of Zimbabwe, I used to help people with disabilities, um, on campus with their assignments, moving around. I won't mention names, but it would help with.
Mhm.
So yeah, helping people with disabilities helped me to navigate the life at the university.
Mm.
I managed to save a lot of money with the assistance I got. I would eat sometimes for free in the dinings. I would get to sleep for free in the dormitories and stuff. So that really helped me. So I'm a product of the people. I
And
was helped by people, and I understood very well that for any success story to be fulfilled, it takes a lot of hands contributing. to get you up. So yeah, when I was there at the University of Zimbabwe, that's when I applied for a fellowship that was being held by the African Studies Council at the University of London. It's called the Queen Mary University of London. So I got selected for that program in December of the year that I was finishing up my master's. It was quite a prestigious program where we got to go and present our ideas. That's the first time that I was presenting ideas about my current PhD thesis, which I've always been researching since my undergrad. I was doing the same topic through and through. So yeah, that opportunity was big because it got me to interact for the first time with international group of like graduate students. These were
Mm,
students with a different mindset altogether. They
mm,
didn't believe in this judgmental system that I had been through, that humanities and finance, you can't do anything. They were so confident that there's a lot they can do. I was beginning to be exposed to a lot of opportunities that people do with humanities and finance degrees. And
mm,
I spent a good amount of time in London, learning a lot at the University of London. I was in the Department of History at Queen Mary University of London,
mm,
around that time
mm,
doing the fellowship. It didn't last for long. And then I received the news that I'd gotten a place. I told you that I was applying to so many schools when I was at the University of Zimbabwe. So that's when I got a reply from the University of Massachusetts Amherst that I'd gotten a PhD. And I remember that I was so excited. There was a little girl that was around the house, so I lifted it up and we were up in the sky. The mother of that
wow.
kid was like shouting that, "Oh, stop that, stop that."
Mm,
But I was so excited. It was a good feeling. I got it with a full ride scholarship,
wow.
and a teaching position. So, it came as a miracle. There's
And it is a miracle, Tina.
Yes.
And I think it's such a fitting, fitting outcome to the story that you just shared. Because I think when you're coming from Zimbabwe, the average person that you talk to is struggling with finances one way or the other. I remember did a second year per university. Me and my friend takanzwa nzara kusvika taba mavheji landlord vangu manheru because we just wanted to eat, you know what I mean, mugarden. So I think it's quite inspirational for us to hear you talk about the journey, and I'm certain, and I want to pray and hope that someone watching you who was at the verge of giving up, and that powerful anecdote of living within your means. University life, some people want to look flashy, people want to wear clothes they can't wear. So it's quite interesting to hear somebody, who has walked the journey telling us that just keep your head down, work hard, and work towards that goal and live within your means. That's very comforting. And thank you for sharing that, and that miracle. So before we talk about the miracle and how the journey has been, like, talk to us about the scholarship application process. How did you find it, and how did you apply to get the one that won? How did you write? What are the tips for someone looking to apply for a PhD at an American university like the University of Massachusetts where you went? What did you learn from the scholarship journey and that you would want to share with us?
Yes, I think that's a very important question. I was in the company of a lot of friends when I was doing those applications. Friends that
Mm.
were also finishing up their undergraduate degrees. Others were in the master's program as well. So I remember we used to organize something like an all night. We do all night prayers at church, all night whatever, all night parties. So with those kinds of friends, we do all night um, applications of applying
Mm,
from
mm,
6 to 6. So we'd go and eat at a dining at the University of Zimbabwe. And then after that, we'd go to one in the same room. So it was about the six of us, 6 or 7 people. And
mm,
what I liked about that group, it was a group of interdisciplinary people. So it wasn't just a bunch of historians. It was people doing medicine and surgery, me doing history there, political science was there as well, administration. So we just convinced each other that let us spend the entire night looking for opportunities, applying, reading out our statements, revising them together. So yeah, we used to do a lot of that. And that really helped a lot because it helped me to refine my statements over time. And we started applying earlier. That's one tip that I would actually want to give. If you ever decide to apply, I think it is important to start to prepare earlier. Because what I saw with many applications, now that I'm in a position that I get to see other applications, when applications are rushed, it's easier to see and distinguish between an application that was submitted by someone who maybe received a link the day before the deadline or three
You
days
can
before the
tell.
deadline. Yes, you can
Wow.
tell. And the application that was prepared over time, gathering all the details, putting in every single requirement that is asked for. But someone who is rushing it writes generic statements. And I'll give some examples to clarify what I mean by this. So when you're applying maybe to the University of Massachusetts Amherst or to the University of Tennessee where I teach, it is important to do research into the university itself, into the department, into the faculty members in the department, their research interests, what the department is known for, what it is good at, and how you can benefit from all that list of things. So if that's not a research that you've not done 3 days, when you're trying to rush an application 3 days before a deadline, you won't be able to know all these details. You just write a generic statement that says, I'm interested in the school because it's a very prestigious school. And then you submit it. So that's a statement that anyone can say, anyone who is prepared and anyone who is not. So it's easy to distinguish. But what helped was also that I did a lot of consultations with not just professors at my university, but the professors who were at this university to ask them what exactly I should do, to ask for their supervision, to ask for guidelines. So I had a lot of assistance that I had gotten before submitting the application. And also not to discredit myself. It is good also to have a good record for yourself, a good CV, a good transcript, good recommendations from your previous employers and your previous teachers. So that was the process, and I should credit the time that we dedicated doing the applications together with other friends, doing inquiries, asking around. Yeah, we did invest a lot in that. It was a time that we had to sacrifice a lot, a lot of pleasure.
And
We couldn't go out and have fun with others, but just stay inside, spending the whole night inside a dorm room together with friends applying. It's not a pleasant experience, but that did help a lot.
And thank you for sharing that, Anotida, because when people think of applications and stuff like that, people minimize it. It's always an afterthought. It's always, when is the deadline? Oh, I'll just do it. So I think it's very helpful for people to hear from you because you've been at both sides of this. You've been the student applying for the scholarship, and now you're part of the committee. You're part of the teaching committee, and it's quite. And thank you for sharing that. An application is work. It takes commitment. You need to get time out of your calendar and actually consult. It's not so pamwe pacho kanozomla scholarship awanikwi kuti tuone cover letter yako. You get it? Kuti, okay, let's see what you've been doing. And you're like, ndiananga kupa scholarship. So thank you for sharing that, and you know what? My favorite, sumo I'm hoping the people who are curious about scholarships are hearing you now and remembering, Kuti, you need to take it serious. It's commitment, it's work, people. You read, you research, and you position your application accordingly. Thank you for that, Dr. Anotida. I'm still getting used to that one.
Even
So
me, I'm not used to it yet, uh, but I think with time I'll be used to it.
I know, and I need to start calling you Dr. Anotida each time I talk to you on the phone now, so that I get used to it. So now we have been successful. We got the scholarship, and now we've gone to Amherst. How has been that journey like? How has been America? The PhD, the scholarship, the environment. all of it. How has that been like?
Yeah, it's I should say maybe this I can say more loudly. The
Mm.
college that I got into is the best college at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. It's called
Wow.
the College of Humanities and Fine Arts. So
Mm.
I would like to encourage everyone watching that if you can apply to as many programs as you can in the College of Humanities and Fine Arts at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. It's the best college. I've been in the college. I've gotten a lot of support. There's nothing that I've wanted or something that I've asked for that I have not gotten from this college. I'll maybe give the details as I tell the journey that I've had, throughout the 6 years that I was living, studying and teaching in Amherst. So yeah, my life in the United States and in Amherst in particular began in 2019. I came initially as a visitor because the program is so structured in such a wonderful way that if they give you a place, they ask you to come to the university. They sponsor the trip, they sponsor your accommodation, they sponsor everything. So they ask you to come and see the place and interact with professors, interact with the facilities in the institution, and make the decision yourself whether you want to come or not. So I came all the way
Wow.
from Zimbabwe. That
Mhm.
was in March, my first visit to the United in March of 2019. So I came here. I spent, I think, about the entire month of March. I was staying in Amherst. I was staying at a hotel on campus. It's called Hotel UMass, which the university was paying for. So I stayed. I managed to do a presentation at one of the conferences. I was also fortunate that I had applied to participate in a conference that the department was hosting even before I got accepted into the PhD. So when I got accepted, they were then interested to get me to come. So when I presented, they didn't even announce me as a student coming from Zimbabwe. They said one of our prospective PhD students has a presentation. So I did my presentation. So I stayed here and then I met, my supervisors. I talked to them. I talked to the people in the department. I loved it. It was a good experience, and I made my decision that I should come to the school. Of
Mm.
course, I'm saying this, but I didn't have many options because this was the only maybe full ride scholarship that I'd gotten. I'd gotten places in other universities, but I didn't get funding. So
Mm.
this was, one of the only schools that had given me such a good package. And it
Mm.
came with a teaching position. So that was the great benefit that came with it. So I then came to officially start my school in August of 2019.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was a pretty good experience. I started very well. I started taking my classes. So with the
Mhm.
PhD programs in the United States, something that I need to clarify to those that may be interested. You don't just get to come and do your research for your PhD alone. You
Mm.
start by doing a coursework. You start taking classes, writing exams, like you are a student again. Like if you start, to go for classes like a student all at once, and you have to finish what they call two 600 classes and two 700 classes. 600 classes are classes which just require you to attend classes and complete assignments. But
Mhm.
700 classes are classes which you are required to attend and then produce a research paper at the end of
Mm.
the semester. So I took a combination of classes from the history department and the economics department. So
Mhm.
I became a product of both
Mm.
of both departments because I was coming from a backdrop of economic history. So I wanted to maintain that subject area in my transcript.
Mm.
It was
Mm.
it was pretty good. There's funding, so we get our salaries all the time, and they get to pay us bi-weekly. When you start getting paid some pretty good money as compared to what we get in in
Compared to
Zimbabwe,
the two
things
hundred
begin to
dollars.
make sense. Yes,
Compared to Mm.
things
Mm.
begin to make sense. Of
Mm.
course, it's not a lot of money, by American standards, but
Mhm.
it's a huge difference by Zimbabwean standards.
Mm.
So things were a bit better. I was able to support my parents. I was able to start some initiatives. I was just, living the life that I was feeling like it was convenient. It was decent enough for someone who was doing a PhD. I befriended some people who were very nice to me along the journey. So I
Mm,
completed my coursework in the first 2 years. So after finishing the coursework, we're expected to write what are called comprehensive exams, which qualify you to submit a prospectus. And I'll explain what that means. But the comprehensive exams are just exams meant to assess if you understand the research areas that you chose to focus on.
mm,
And you are not just tested in areas that you specialize in, but you're also tested in other areas. So
mm,
for me, the areas that I was tested in was the history of Zimbabwe, the history of Africa in general, and the history of North America. North America, which encompasses largely the United States and Canada.
mm,
So they get to test you in areas that you're good at and in areas that are completely new to you.
mm,
So I had to familiarize myself with a lot of American history, 20th century American presidential history. And I did Africa. My focus was African nationalism and decolonization. I
mhm,
did the history of Zimbabwe. For Zimbabwe, I didn't have to choose specific areas. It was just an overview of the history. So I wrote the exams. I passed them with a high pass. Uh,
mm,
and then I managed to submit a prospectus, which was also approved. And then I became a PhD candidate.
mm,
So it took me maybe about 3 years to become a PhD candidate.
mm,
And when you become a PhD candidate, that's when you start to do your research for the PhD. I managed to get a lot of funding from the department. I was also selected among like 20 graduate students in the United States to go to a museum that is based in New Orleans. So
mm,
I was based at a school called the Jenny Craig Institute for the Study of War and Democracy for about 3 months under
mhm,
that fellowship, which it's just a program that gets to teach people who are in doing PhDs to get to teach them how to teach military history because my research was in military history. Something
mm,
that's important to note about my journey and the stuff I do is things about military or military issues are not issues that are just easy to teach in front of like students who are very young, who
mm,
are aged 19, 20, 21. It's not easy to come and start teaching them about wars, about massacres, about guns, about bombs without really understanding the ethics and the rules and regulations of teaching military issues. There are some issues that are very information that is classified about conflicts and about genocides and war crimes that need to be understood before getting in front of the classroom. So that program did help me a lot, and I completed it and got my certificate, and
mhm,
it made a huge difference in my life because that's when I connected with all the military historians, the military scholars who are, working throughout the US. The connections I needed for me to start applying for jobs that I can start teaching the same stuff.
mm.
So that helped me, and I completed my PhD, my research. I presented it in different universities, and yeah, it was quite a good experience. And fortunately, the dissertation just got a distinction, and
Mm.
my overall, degree class became a distinction. So yeah, I was very proud and happy for myself that, at the very last stage of my intellectual journey, I was able to score the best grade. So that's been my journey.
Wow, wow, Anotida, congratulations. I'm literally, I think ndaida Zimbabwe zvokusimuka nomboridza mupururu, but that's phenomenal, hey. And congratulations on the distinction. We are so proud, and thank you for sharing and unpacking, because usually when someone hears PhD scholarship in America, they have a very different understanding of what that looks like. So for
Mhm.
someone like you who has lived through it to tell us that this is how it works, thank you so much for sharing that information. Okay, that's the the PhD and the academics, that's part of your journey. I think in the final few minutes that we have left, let's talk about the other things that you do. Let's talk about the book series. What was the inspiration behind that, and the columnist, you're a columnist as well, and you're a published author. So let's talk about sort of those things that I know it's linked to your journey as an academic, but that's also quite an impressive feat, to host a series. What was the motivation and the inspiration for that, and how is that journey been like?
Nice. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I should tell maybe the story, just brief. I'll be very brief with the story that got me to start this series, or the book series.
Mm-hmm.
When I was doing my undergrad,
Mm-hmm.
I wrote it, and it was my first time writing a thesis from in my life. So it was quite an interesting experience to just write something that you can own for yourself and say it's mine. So it was quite a good experience. I got a distinction for that dissertation, and I uploaded it on the internet through a site called Academia Edu. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a professor who's based at the University of California, Santa Barbara, who saw the thesis
Mm-hmm.
and was interested in it. And he wrote to me that he's interested in the thesis, and he thinks like it's a very good topic that could
Wow.
be incorporated in a program that was being broadcasted by Africa Today. So Africa Today is this television channel that we know, the popular Africa Today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So he said he wanted to write to Africa Today to get me interviewed about that dissertation, because it was a very interesting story about Africans being recruited to go and fight in a world war and stuff which had not been, recorded in historical manuscripts, that had been published on Zimbabwe, since the war ended.
Mm-hmm.
So he wrote to me, and I was very excited. I remember buying a new shirt because I was preparing to go for the interview to talk about my dissertation. I was very excited.
Mm-hmm.
So when he wrote to the guys at Africa Today, they wrote back to him that, if it's still an undergraduate thesis, let the project grow a bit, maybe to master's level or to PhD. And maybe when it's a commercial publication and stuff, we will be able to really popularize it. We will need to see if this person can take up the research more seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't like turn me down necessarily, but they just said, let us postpone the interview so that we wait for this person to do more research, and then we can get to talk to him when he has something more extensive, something that is available on academic or commercial press. So I was a bit disappointed because I had prepared a lot. I had bought a new shirt. I told everyone in my street back home that I'll be on television. I'll be talking about my thesis. And everyone was looking forward to seeing me on Africa Today. And then it didn't happen. So I got very disappointed. But I sat down and thought for myself that there are quite a lot of people who are in my position who have written like very interesting things, not just undergraduate dissertations, but actual books, actual journal articles, and actual like biographies and stuff. But they have not been interviewed by anybody because people don't take books seriously. People don't market books. It's not a culture. Like social media back then was just dominated by uh, sports people, musicians, and comedians. So I just developed the idea back then. I was still at the University of Zimbabwe, but I didn't implement it.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, when I got to the University of Massachusetts Amherst,
Mm-hmm.
I decided to take it up
Mm-hmm.
around the time that the COVID-19 pandemic began. Everything switched to online learning. So that's when we started using Zoom. That's when Skype became a thing. That's when online stuff became very popular. So I thought of just starting to do the work as a way of educating my own class, I invite an author, they speak about their book, my students get to benefit. But I realized it was something that could benefit not just the students I was teaching, but an entire population of students living and working around the world. So I expanded it, started interviewing professors who have published scholarly books. I started inviting them to give lectures, to give talks about their books. I also started delivering lectures about the series itself on the very same channel. I started collecting oral histories. The program just boomed. I started getting funding. I started marketing books from Oxford University Press, Harvard University Press. I was connecting with editors in so many university presses. And that actually got me an internship job at the University of Massachusetts Press. I began to work for them for quite some time, marketing the books there. And as well, it is during that time that I started to experiment with writing columns. So I would review the books that I done interviews on, and then I would send them out to editors of newspapers. That time I got in touch with an editor of one of the biggest newspapers in South Africa, the Daily Maverick. And I got in touch with the then editor. I should give a shout out to him. His name is Mark Haywood. He accepted my proposal. So I started reviewing books and publishing articles in a column that was given to me and my other friend who is currently based in Ireland. I think we recently interviewed him on this platform as well, David Chukwas. So we wrote a lot of articles together with the Daily Maverick. I then shifted and started doing something more closer back home. I started writing for the Newsday and for the Standard. I got a column at the Standard as well. So yeah, I then, embarked on a journey that was so interesting. I managed to get my academic ideas in columns that are shorter and that can be understood by the general public.
Anotida. That's very, very impressive, and I love how the idea for the book series was born from experience. I think sometimes some of our best ideas come from those moments where we look at something and think this could be an injustice. Because I think for me as well, with conversations with the dreamers, I just thought to myself, when you hear a podcast, it's either people are interviewing people that are trending for the wrong reasons, or people are interviewing people that are celebrities or whatever. But then there are so many people that do so many amazing things that just get lost somewhere in there, and those are the people that I want to talk to. So thank you for sharing that, and I think it's actually an inspirational nudge to somebody watching us. It's I always say that part of the way you realize what your purpose in life is, pay attention to the things that piss you off, or things that make you happy, or things that you look at and say, I want to do something about this, or I want to see more of this. Like that sweet spot where you feel like changing something, that's where your area of purpose is. And thank you for confirming that with your story. And we wish you all the best, with the series, with the columns, and all that and all that. Dr. Anotida, we are coming towards the end, and I want to give you a chance. This is the beat of the interview where I say I want to make everybody a motivational speaker in the next 10 minutes. I want you to reflect on your journey and everything, from Godfrey Hodgins, Marondera High, Nyomeni, Use It, Amherst, all of it. What are some of the lessons that you want to leave with us today? What are some of the things that you wish you could have told 10-year-old Anotida?
Yeah, it's quite a lot. I can't finish them off in a short space of time, but I'll just give some important highlights, which I think are very important. Something that I can say I learned through the experience. This is not something I was told by someone. I didn't hear it maybe in a lecture or something. But I noticed that our journeys are made successful by the people. So when we achieve certain things, I've always seen, we like to take credit. We say, I have achieved this. I've gotten a degree. I've got this. We use we speak of it in terms of the first person language, that it is I who did this. But in my journey, I learned that I was successful in almost anything that I was doing, or I'd set myself to do, because I had a group of people that were willing to support me with ideas, to support me with their money, to support me with their resources, to support me with guidance. Some of the people just gave me guidance, did not even pursue the things I pursued, but they just gave me direction. And I'm speaking of the good people, Of course, the people we meet, some are bad, some are good, but I'm just talking of those that we get to learn from. So we are products of each other. I will repeat that statement. We are products of each other in whatever we do. We need to understand that life is about the experiences that we give each other as human beings.
Mm.
If we just live life as an individual, you won't be happy. It is when you start experiencing the next person and the next person gets to experience you that you begin to feel the sense of life and its fulfillment. So in everything that I wanted to do, whether it's the PhD, whether it's the book series, I can't say I have a book series. I'm amazing, but it's our book series because it's a collection of interviews with so many professors who were willing to say, we're going to come and tell our story through you. So the project becomes a product of the people. Even the PhD that I wrote, hundreds of families participated in that project. Families that lost their parents because of the war, families that were unable to get benefits out of the war, families that lived the harsh realities of colonial racial discrimination. They came together, compiled their stories, they shared the stories with me, and I was able to compile a dissertation. So whenever I talk about my dissertation and my success with the PhD, I say it is our PhD. I say it is our dissertation that scored a distinction because I was just the custodian of the so many stories that so many families were bringing together. That's the same I can say of the experiences I've had even in the past. I was a product of the people, and this is what has made me feel that in whatever I do, I also want to give back. I also want to contribute to the development of others so that they can achieve their dreams. In our
Wow.
in our culture, the Ubuntu culture, we say, "I am because we are." Yes,
And the remaining mwari kombi churu,
yes, yeah,
you need people, and
yes.
and thank you for that. I think the temptation is real, to just take the credit for yourself. But if you look back, you realize that we are all products of the people that have supported us, that have believed in us. It's my life changed because my grade 7 teacher believed in me. So
Mm.
it's those people that we meet on our journey that impact us for the rest of our lives. Dr. Anotida Chikumbu, that was phenomenal. And I think it's a perfect way to sum up the amazing conversation we had here today. And thank you so much for taking the time. I know you've just started a new job, you've just moved to a new city, but you took time off your busy schedule to come and have this conversation with me. I don't take it lightly. I appreciate it. And thank you so much for gracing us with your presence today and telling us the story, which I have no doubt will inspire and motivate so many young people watching us out there.
Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate the opportunity. I'm wishing this program the best because
Mm.
I'm loving following the stories. I look forward to hearing the stories of other people that are going to come after me.
Oh, thank you so much. And I do believe in the power of stories. I truly, truly believe in the power of stories because as human beings, that's why we have fairy tales and we have Disney movies because stories are powerful. So I think when we have more and more conversations like this and platform more and more stories like this, we can truly, truly help somebody. It may not be a million people, it just has to be the one person who says, I had Dr. Chikumbu being interviewed and my life was never the same. So thank you so much for coming today. And everybody else, thank you so much for watching today's episode of Conversations with the Dreamers. I hope, like me, you learned a lot, you were inspired, you were motivated. Please don't forget to subscribe so that each time a new episode becomes available, you're the first one to know. Thank you so much, and until next time.